Probably you just read Julio Cortazar's Axolotl and are wondering what just happened. I'm John. Today I'm going to share with you my experience and interpretation of the story in light of Michel Foucault's, Maurice Bennett's, and Gerald Bourne's ideas. First of all, what's an axolotl? Axolotls are a species of salamander which lives in the Xochimilco River complex. They are so interesting. For instance, the axolotl can regenerate lost limbs. It has the uncommon feature of keeping its larval state even during its life. Its external gills look like feathers and they live in water. For more information, visit National Geographic's webpage. Please stop the video to read the following summary if you haven't read the story yet. It sounds really simple in this way, yet for you to get a better idea, I'm going to read a passage from the text and my insight on it. They were not human beings, but I had found in no animal such a profound relation with myself. The axolotls were like witnesses of something, and at times like horrible judges. I felt ignoble in front of them. There was such a terrifying purity in those transparent eyes. Probably this idea is linked to the narrator's obsession with axolotls. The narrator is way too fascinated by this animal because he sees the salamander not as an animal, but more like a creature even superior to humans, with a deep reasoning and unimaginable thoughts. Then the narrator turns into an axolotl himself. However, before talking about it, what is mutability? It makes reference to transformation. As in the story, a human turned into a salamander, but it can also be seen in literature the other way around, or even objects turning into living creatures and vice versa. It's worth mentioning this transformation has a deep meaning. The transformation is usually linked to ideas, values, concepts, so that the change is not only physical but intellectual. It's another perspective to see the world from. Having said this, what about the narrator's mutation? What deep meaning is behind the axolotl? What does this transformation mean? The following excerpt taken from the text shows us this transformation process. Please pause the video and give it a read. As you can see, he's not a human admiring axolotls from the outside. He's an axolotl damned to live with humans, the unconscious creatures. But he's still a human. He's two sides of the same coin, in which each is different. His experience took him to the limits of transgression, represented by the mutation as an axolotl. It probably represents a failed transformation of the self. A part of the narrator turned into this amphibian, but his other human side just left. However, I think this transformation is not something negative. On the contrary, it's a kind of resurrection, I'd say illumination, because the now axolotl narrator's thoughts are more lucid and he's accepted his fate. On the contrary, the human narrator is like an extension of this axolotl narrator. In my opinion, this division of these two selves is like the thinking, pondering self who's aware about reality, and the human self who's more like living in a sort of autopilot mode. The following excerpt of the story might support my previous thought. It seemed to me that he was not so much interested in us anymore, that he was coming out of habit. It means the narrator or his human side is not interested in axolotls anymore as he was at the beginning. And that coming out of habit is something we usually face with several things, people, places, art, among others. Before talking about my own interpretation of the text, please pause the video and read the following passages. From Foucault's perspective, I understand experience as a moment. For example, when reading, it's just there. When you face something completely new, bizarre, strange, impossible, even something simple but depicted in a unique way thanks to the use of language. The experience of the reader is closely related to his or her experience of the world, even if the reader has not lived what is being described. Is that comparison, dialogue, or response, contestation to the text from the reader's own viewpoint that would probably be called the limit experience. Hence, there's not only one possible interpretation, and for me, after having read Axolotl, I can only see that the amphibian side of the narrator represents art expressions and or everyday life phenomena, and how humans appreciate it in terms of emotion and time. The other half, his human side, represents how, in spite of being fascinated by things even more, We start getting used to everything, to the point of not minding about anything or even worse, on autopilot, forgetting the bond we had with certain things, like the human side of the narrator. Therefore, in my opinion, Axolotl is a sort of invitation not to be damned to living on autopilot, a living full of monotony. This story is a sort of invitation for us to wake up and see the beauty and complexity of this world, even in the most basic things. Please stop the video again to read these final excerpts to complement the previous ideas. Finally, I want to introduce you to my own axolotls. I used to be into all of them, but with the passing of time, the bond I had with them just changed and even turned into monotony. My transgression, my transformation after reading, I have to learn to appreciate more what is around me, and not only see it but explore it as much as I can, just like a boy gluing his face to a glass while observing axolotls.